Okay, I think I'm ready to live stream, so why don't I just hit the theme music? Why don't I bring up this incredible graphic? Welcome to Sharks Night Shift. It's my first actual, real episode of this. Last game, we didn't do the broadcast. And so I live streamed the entire third period. In fact, second intermission, third period. Did some post game. This is more what it's normally going to be like, where I do the post-game show, and then I come on here with YouTube and you too, and talk about the Sharks hockey game that we all witnessed. Game 10 on the season. Interesting, the wavelength of the Sharks so far. They won 4 in a row to start off their season. Then they lost 3 in a row. Some people were a bit panicked. They were facing adversity. Then they got more adversity with the COVID tests. They won 2 after that, and then tonight they lost. So 4-3, 2-1 for the San Jose Sharks after 10 games, 6-4-0. And I think, as Drew Remenda put so elegantly on our post-game show tonight, was this a game that the Sharks could have had, should have had? I think the best analogy of it, or the best description of it, is that this was kind of a self-inflicted loss. There were a few things that San Jose did to put themselves in control of this game, and a couple of things that got them out of control of the game. Namely, the 3-goal third period, 3-goal second period by St. Louis, and a couple ones that Adin Hill would have wanted back, specifically the Brandon Saad-Rister coming up the right side of the ice. But the way St. Louis scored tonight on a 3-on-2, on a one-timer, on a wide-open wrister, and James Neal on a rebound, kind of unmarked, all alone out front, and then an empty netter. 1 in the first, 3 in the second, 1 in the third, empty netter, and that's your 5-3 loss. St. Louis also played on back-to-back nights. You would have hoped that as tonight went on, maybe fatigue kicks in favor of the Sharks, but it didn't happen. The Blues got better over the course of the game, and the Sharks kind of tailed away. Actually, that's kind of part of this, right? Was it more about what St. Louis did late in the game, or more about what the Sharks got away from later in the game? Now, to be fair and to put all of this into proper perspective, this is still a Sharks team that's missing 7 key players, missing their head coach, missing their equipment manager, missing their head trainer. I know, I'm going on and on here, but you understand, how far behind the 8 ball this team has been in the last 3 games and what they've actually done. I mean, a pair of 6-win teams coming into tonight, and quite honestly, through one period, the Sharks were the better team, and not just because of what the scoreboard said. They looked like the better team. Should have been more than a 2-1 lead. In the second period, I really liked their response right after Pavel Buchnevich scored at 4:20. Nick Merkley got his first goal as a Shark 29 seconds later. Sharks gave up a lead. It was a tie game, and they untied it real quick. But unfortunately, that was their last goal of the evening. I know a lot of people want to talk about William Eklund. I do too. I think it's interesting, fascinating. I've done a couple of videos on this already. I've also come to a conclusion on it of what I hope and think that they'll do here after his 9 games in the NHL. I'll save that for just a second. Let me just quickly break down this game. First period, like I said, Sharks were the better team. Sharks got a 5-on-3 opportunity where they got a power play goal. They also gave up a shorty. Clearly that kind of washes everything away. They could have been up 2-0 after that power play sequence. So unfortunately didn't exactly completely capitalize on it. And how about a first period, which, by the way, saw 3 goals, 1 on the power play and a shorthanded goal for each team. How often do you see something like that happen? But again, still a good start, a good, establishing first period. Joel Hofer, their goalie, his NHL debut. You had hoped to get under his skin just a little bit. I think they did that. Unfortunately, like I said, they just could not maintain that throughout the course of the game. I already mentioned the Merkley goal, his first as a Shark. Great tip out front off the Ferraro shot. That's now 2 games where Ferraro's got a puck through. Last game, it was a goal. In this one, it was an assist. Love the way that happened. Another key point here, as we're going to talk about the second period, is Adin Hill. Now, Adin Hill's last game was a 4-0 loss to Montreal. That was the first game of this homestand, and in it, the Sharks just did not look good as a team. I know people are going to say, well, Adin let up some goals that were regrettable in that game, and yeah, that's probably agreeable as well. But sometimes how you look as a goalie is reflective of the skaters out in front of you. I felt like nobody was really great in that game against Montreal. So he didn't play for the 2 games after that. Reimer comes in and wins those 2 games, and the defense looks good in those 2 games. And again, they're shorthanded in those games. But obviously, coming into tonight, you can't have Adin Hill, get cold, get iced out of this. I mean, granted, Reimer was playing well. I thought there was a chance he might get a 3rd start in a row, but I also realized the bigger picture situation. I mean, at this point, after Hill's outing tonight and the way Reimer had been, you would expect Saturday, no question, goes to James Reimer. I'm not trying to stir this up into something bigger. I'm really not. But Curtis and I, over the years, we've come up with 4 levels of the goalie relationship between a tandem. There's a goalie conversation. There's a goalie competition. There's a goalie controversy. And there's a goalie conundrum. Man, that's a lot to get through. So a goalie conversation is kind of where we're at right now. We're talking about Hill versus Reimer versus the way James has played in maybe more limited roles, but, how his last 2 starts looked versus how Adin Hill's last 2 starts looked. We're not, and no, you know what? Maybe we're past that. Maybe we're at the competition phase. Maybe after tonight's result, or maybe it's less of competition because they're both not pushing each other. But you understand my point. The next level is that competition. Maybe we're both are competing, and now we have to make a decision. A goalie controversy, that is a true, and that's kind of a good thing sometimes because you have both guys playing well, and it's a toss-up. We're not at that point. And a goalie conundrum is when both guys are playing terribly, and you don't know who to start in that regard either. So just to clarify, conversation is, loosely where we're at. Competition is, we got this, we got this. How do they balance each other? Controversy is when it's like, hey, 2-horse race here. Who picks a winner tonight? And then conundrums when nothing is going well. So, look, I'm encouraged by Adin Hill. I still even think tonight in the second period, although he gave up 3 goals, he only faced 12 shots in the second period. 3 goals on 12 shots, that's nothing to write home about. But he also stopped a couple grade A chances that could have easily been St. Louis goals, especially in the first shift or 2 of that second period. So, how do you grade it in the end? Not bad. Certainly he wants a different result. I know he's going to get more chances, but as of right now, slightly encouraged to go back to Reimer sooner than later and give him more reps than maybe even the Sharks were planning on. All right. Is it Eklund time? Have we reached that point in the conversation? William Eklund has now played 9 games. He sat out 1 on the last road trip, and I'd be surprised at this point if the Sharks don't keep him in North America. There's 3 total options, right? The Sharks, the Barracuda, or Sweden. But there's really 2 options because the contract, if they keep him in North America, it kicks in. The only way the contract doesn't kick in and it all kind of gets wiped away and his NHL time doesn't count against the contract and NHL experience, that only gets wiped away if he is sent back to Sweden. Now, think about Sweden. First off, it's where he's from, family support, all that. But what's that going to be like, that flight back to Sweden, those games back in Sweden? Now that you've had a taste of the NHL, you've also found success. Has he been overwhelmed at all? Tell me he has, because he has not been to me. I don't think he's reached full potential nearly, but he's 19. And as Logan Couture pointed out tonight, playing on the top line, playing top line minutes, playing against top line opponents, he has been thrown instantly into the fire. Think about his trajectory. Drafted 7th when a lot of people thought he should have gone higher than that. Had a really good training camp in preseason, made the team when some people said, wow, I don't even know if he'll make it, but he did. opening night roster, had just turned 19, a point in every one of his first couple games. Gotten away from that a little bit, and there's still flashes of what he can do there. And also, I got to say this, I'm really interested to see how he looks at the 20-game mark, at the 25-game mark, at the 45-game mark. This is more hockey and a higher level of hockey, obviously, than he's ever played in his life. How will that wear on him? How will that weigh on him? We'll find out. But going back to the overall situation here, if you send him back to Sweden, he's not going to learn any of these things. And it's not at a point right now where staying here is detrimental to him. I'll be honest, I didn't know what to expect 3 or 4 or 5 games ago, but now that we've seen him more, you can understand, like he said today, he belongs here. And I obviously hope for him that he gets that opportunity to prove himself, to play his way into and out of situations or get back into situations. And what's the very worst thing if he stays here in North America? I'm totally okay if there's a little trip to the Barracuda for a week or 2 or whatever it takes to get the confidence right, to reassess things. There's no shame in that at all at 19 years old. So I'm really pulling for William Eklund. Obviously, I hope, and I think at this point that he has earned the right to stay. I think that the Sharks are going to keep him. I don't know. I can't say that was maybe initially their intention, or they were more open to sending him back if it made sense. I just feel like at this juncture, based on what we've seen, he has put himself in a position to know that he can improve here. He can work on some things here. He's going to get more done here in North America, way more than he would in Sweden. Okay, you know what I think I'm going to do, by the way? I think I'm going to pop up the live chat here and take some of the best questions. And I'll just start at the beginning. Well, what did I think of that? You know what? A 5-3 loss tonight. Realistically, the empty netter at the end, it was basically a 1-goal game. The Blues are a very good team. They're 7-1-1. The Sharks now 6-4-0. The fact that San Jose was in this game, I know. They didn't face Bennington. I know. The Blues also have a couple players under COVID protocol. I get it. But come on. This was not a terrible loss. It should have been a better result. Honestly, it really should have if we saw more at the end of the game as what we saw at the beginning of the game. It should have been a totally different result. Could have been. That's also important to note. This could have been the Sharks had a chance in this one, just didn't close it out. A few goals I'm sure Hill would like back, and that was the difference maker. Yeah, plus not capitalizing, as you mentioned, Chris, on Christopher, on a late power play in the third period, had every chance to jump right back in this game, tie it up. Instead, the empty netter makes it look like a totally different score. Does it say still that there are only 4 people watching? Is that true? Well, let me go back to the screen here. No, that might have been a while ago. So what happens here on the live streams is that it takes a while to populate. In fact, I'm told sometimes that it's not even my best idea to do a 15-minute live stream because people don't tune in fast enough. But you know what? The great thing is I do it live. It's on YouTube. You can see it later tonight. You can see it first thing tomorrow morning. I like this way better than recording and uploading and all that stuff. So Christopher also saying Eklund has to say, yeah, I agree. He'll develop just fine playing alongside NHLers. I think what we have to understand is the development might include a step forward sometimes, and maybe a step back sometimes, and maybe 2 steps forward sometimes, and maybe 2 steps back sometimes. But we know the direction he's going. We know he's surrounded by a great support system. Again, shipping him off to Sweden, if he underperformed to a great degree, I totally understand why they would do it. I just feel like at this point, and we'll know probably tomorrow, Saturday at the latest, but I don't see him going back to Sweden. And I'm glad for it. For missing a ton of key players, they're still generating good offense, which is what they were struggling with the last few seasons. Whatever the secret sauce is for their offense, you're into it. All right, Kev Mac attack. Speaking of their offense, great to see Brent Burns tonight get his first goal of the season. That was on the power play. Beauty of a one-timer. Logan's goal, late first period, the stick lift, then to go the other way in a 2-on-1 and score 5 holes shorthanded, nonetheless. The Sharks are scoring goals, honestly, this year. It's just that in the two prior games, they were a bit better defensively. And as I listed the goals, a 3-on-2, a one-timer, a wrister that was, pretty visible to Aiden Hill, and a James Neal rebound all alone, unmarked out front. I mean, tons of time and space to put it back away. There were just some regrettable goals tonight that make a difference in a hockey game. Mon Sharkley? I hope I'm saying that right. Please, Sharks, keep Eklund here. No, I absolutely think they will. Julio, is it you or does Hill give up a lot of rebound goals? Like tonight with the James Neal goal, that's one right there where it's the rebound is part of it, but I understand like rebounds are going to happen. But when James Neal is out front and it comes right to him and he can kind of dangle for a second, look up, have a drink, and then decide to shoot and score, it's like, all right, do you chalk that up? Do you chalk that up to the goalie for the rebound, or do you chalk it up to the defense for not marking the man out front? Again, all did not go as well for Hill tonight as it had been for Reimer in the two prior games. Alden checking in. First, I hope that all the folks in the COVID protocol will fully recover and be okay. And Alden, I got to tell you, that is the first and foremost thing on my mind. I know a lot of people out there have the assumption, and statistically, I get why that is. People recover from this. They isolate, they take care of themselves, they play it safe, and they recover. Perfect. And I certainly hope that's the case for everybody. But think about all the inconvenience with this, and families, and separating, and you don't want your kids who are not vaccinated to get sick. All the players are vaccinated. You would think a lot of their family members, probably in the same boat, but not spreading this internally in your house. I mean, at the kids' schools, if you have kids, or if you're just isolating and locked away, being responsible. That is a tough life. These players want to get out there, skate, exercise. Maybe they're symptomatic or asymptomatic, or maybe they're frustrated because they're asymptomatic, but they keep testing positive. All of this it's mind-numbing. Like, we should understand this better by now, after a year and a half, almost 2 years of this. But I agree, Alden. That's where it starts for me every single time is I don't care sometimes how many hockey games you miss or what the team looks like. I want people to be okay and their families to be okay first and foremost. Okay, sorry, now that I read that. As for the game, is it you or did it seem like the power play slipped back into passing too much? And passing on taking shots. Maybe a little bit. And, the Burns example of the goal goes against that, but that's what you want to see more of. Line up a one-timer and shoot, or just throw pucks at the net. Go for those James Neal rebounds. Go for the, Nick Merkley tips like he had in front tonight. That was not on the power play, but, to the point. So I agree. I think a little bit is definitely noticeable that power play, how it started the season, was simple, straightforward, getting results. They were 5 for 12 at one point. And I'm also wondering, too, with the way that this team has had to change their strategies behind the scenes, like John McClain was the power play coach, or, the coach responsible for that. Now he's the head coach. Can't put as much time and effort into the power play. This team can't have meetings like they're supposed to about special teams and pre-scouts. And you just see how complicated this gets really fast when every rule rightfully has to be followed. A much more difficult situation. Okay, that's been 20 minutes. It's 11 o'clock. And you know what? I'm going to head home and get to sleep. Today took it out of me for whatever reason. I specifically don't know what it was, but I'm gassed. Ready for bed. And we'll do it again on Saturday. Sharks and Devils for the first time since 2012, maybe? No, I'm kidding, but it feels like that. How to chalk this one up here on, by the way, Sharks Night Shift. Thanks for joining me on the first ever post-game edition of Sharks Night Shift. This loss kind of goes in line with what I still think the Sharks are, a very competitive team. They can be really good. I can't wait until they're more back at even strength. Hey, everybody, real quick, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Thumbs up on this video if you actually liked it, and I will talk to you next time. Good night.